Big shout out to today's video sponsor, Linsol. Check out their fantastic deals in the links in the video description. I love the Ikko OH10 IEMs because of their wide soundstage, their deep reaching bass, and smooth lean back profile. So can the redesigned OH10S improve on this? Do they even sound different at all? Or are all those changes surface level? Find out that and more in my review of the Ikko Sapphire Mirage OH10S. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and thanks to Ikko for sending out the OH10S for review. They did not burn these in, they did not pay me to say anything at all. I mean, they haven't paid me at all. They just sent out the IEMs for review and they don't get any sort of input on this video, so there you go. The OH10s are a 10mm dynamic and single BA setup for a hybrid set. They are around £160 or $160 and are competing in a fairly lively segment of the market with the likes of the Rapsco Bridge and Sennheiser IE300s. They come with the same accessories as the Obsidian OH10s, so you get a very basic cable, a horrific case, which is probably not that bad, but I just think it's really bad. It's like a leather case with a securing mechanism that doesn't really work, and yeah, the whole thing. Get plenty of tips which are fairly serviceable as well. But thankfully it's not about the accessories, it's about the sound and the IEMs themselves with these, and they look fantastic. The shape is very similar to the Obsidian OH10, but it's a little bit sort of deeper, so the faceplate comes out a little bit more, and then the faceplate itself is glass, photochromic I believe glass, that essentially changes colour in direct sunlight, so it goes to like a bluey haze, which is quite cool. Beneath this glass is sort of the circuit board which connects the different drivers together. Looks unique, looks cool. It's similar to the OH300s, so Ikko is kind of maybe moving towards this cool glass setup. It looks good, and you know, I think the shape of the IEM is one of those ones that either fits you or it doesn't. There's no in between. There's no like, oh, it kind of sits in there. It's a very shallow nozzle. It's a very shallow setup, so it goes it sits in your ear, it doesn't stick out, but it also doesn't go very deep. It has the detachable 2-pin cable, which is still a tangle happy mess. I really don't like it. It's perfectly fine in terms of quality. It doesn't feel like it's going to break. It's fairly lightweight and it's supple. It has a single-ended 3.5mm right-angled connector on the end, and it's a 2-pin, so you can swap it out. I don't mind it in that sense. It's just, it tangles so easily. It's actually frustrating, like genuinely frustrating. So I'd recommend swapping out the cable. Thankfully these are £160, so you have like say an extra £40 to play with to buy a case and a cable before you hit the 200 category. And actually I feel like these are at least £200 worth of sound quality, which we'll get onto in a second. The sound quality is very similar to the OH10, so it's a V shape, it's fun sounding, it's impactful, it's immersive, but there are some differences which we do need to talk about. Listening to these back to back with a Y splitter and really trying to go back and forth on them, I can tell a few very minor differences. And this could be that I have hundreds of hours on my OH10s and tens of hours on the OH10Ss. That could be different, so disclaimer there. They're all playing from the same source, the same cable, you know, everything else is the same. It's just the fact that one is a different model and two, I've listened to the OH10s for longer. I think that the OH10S sounds a little bit crisper. There's a little bit more detail going on there. You can hear instrument separation a bit better, but at the cost of perhaps a little bit of soundstage. Now these still have decent soundstage. The OH10s have great soundstage. These slightly pulled back, I would say, but you do get a little bit more in terms of maybe the mid bass is a little bit more impactful, and you can hear details in instrument separation, in voices, in gaming. It's all just a little bit more crisp with these compared to the OH10s. So actually for a lot of people I think they might prefer the OH10S because they sound a little bit more engaging and a little bit more lively. But the OH10s still for me are the better pair because of that bigger soundstage and a little bit more smoothness in the mid-range. Again, both sets are V-shaped, so you're going to get sort of a mid-range that isn't quite as clear and isn't quite as present as some other sets. I don't think that's a deal breaker, and I think that most people are going to be extremely happy with the OH10S, but it's just worth noting that I think that there's a little bit more crispness in return for a little bit less soundstage, and I'm not sure if it's a big enough difference that if you put a gun to my head and asked me which to pick, I would have to pick the OH10s. I don't really mind either, I really like both, so I don't think it's going to be a deal breaker for most people. But if you know, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have both sets on hand, I'll still reach for the OH10s over the OH10Ss, just because I prefer that more lean back, less lean in experience for something like this. The OH10S isn't so lean in that it feels harsh or it feels overly complicated, or you know, you feel like you're going to get a lot of sound fatigue from them. Not in any case, but you just get that little bit more of that compared to the OH10s. This means that the OH10S for gaming is still great, it's still impactful, it's still immersive, it still gives you that soundstage, not quite as much, but getting on for as good soundstage. Great for CSGO, great for, you know, anything like that. Apex, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Overwatch, you know, listening to music or listening to anything like that. They're just a great sounding pair. And actually it follows in the same way the OH10s did, or follows the same kind of path, in that you're probably going to want a cable, you're probably going to want a case, but the OH10S's overall, you know, the IEM themselves, if you just isolate that, they're good enough to compete in the £200 category, maybe even 250. I have listened to these back to back with the Quintet, and I'd still pick the Quintet. I still think the Quintet is the better IEM, but it doesn't have the soundstage or the crazy rumble that these do. So if you prefer those things, then you probably want to go with Ikko's OH10 or 10S. But the big question, is the OH10S an upgrade? Probably. It's probably better. It's just that I personally prefer the qualities of the older one, and not by enough that it's really going to make a difference. So thanks to Ikko for sending out the OH10S. Your definitive answer here is that they're extremely close, but the OH10S just has a few different qualities. And this could be because it's using a copper and glass composite instead of just an entirely copper housing. It could be just the housing that's making the difference here. Links to where you can find the OH10S will be in the video description. Big thanks to Ikko for sending these out. And again, they didn't pay me anything, so you know, take that for what you will. Thank you all so much for watching, and please do like, comment and all that fun stuff. Big thanks to my patrons for being continually supportive as well. I really appreciate it. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you in the next IEM review. Cheers.